Hey, welcome back, YouTube. I know it's like next week for you guys. It just feels like we just talked to you guys like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's been, I think, 3.5 actually.
For us, that's why we're wearing literally the exact same clothes.
I thought of changing. I'm like, hey, we can totally make them think. Yeah, it's not different at all. Yeah. I didn't even stand up.
I don't think I did either. So, fun fact, my dad was a professional fisherman.
No.
And he did a lot, like he did some like videos, fishing and stuff.
Okay.
Like TV shows. And he said one of the things that they would do is they literally would wear the same thing every day that they would go out so they could edit it together and take like what was a 5-day trip and make it look like it was all one.
That's really smart.
Yeah. That's not at all what we're doing here. We're wearing the same clothes because we literally just finished Soul Hunter and now we're here. And if you guys watched last week, you know that already.
Exactly.
But welcome. This is our behind-the-scenes recording of Babylon 5 first.
The first time.
For the first time. That's it. I gotta get that rolling off my tongue better. Jeff and I are going to be recording. The podcast will come out. You guys should go subscribe to that because we want your download number, and that's the only reason we care about you guys. Absolutely.
And it's cool. Like, we make it zhuzh and add some stuff, and it's cool.
Yeah. Jeff does all the producing stuff for it, and he's awesome at that.
Oh, well,
thank you. And I've produced so many podcast episodes, I'm glad to let you take it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. And we're so good at this. Like, we're so good at this. It's very easy to do.
If
you watched last week's, and if you didn't, go watch it. You'll see what I mean at how good we are. When I literally talked about this episode in the last one.
I was like, the B plot. And I'm like, Jeff, dude, that's next week's episode.
You're a week off. Yeah, so you can see how smooth the edit was by going and downloading that on Apple or Spotify. Yeah,
I can't wait till you release that episode so I can hear it because I'm gonna go listen to it and it's gonna be so smooth. Like if you didn't know, you didn't know.
Baby's butt. Like it's just gonna be so good.
But see, that's the professional nature because as a podcaster how to rewind yourself and start where you are so that you just make the edit and
you have like a built-in 7-second delay. Is really what it is.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. All right, Jeff. Well, with that, we're 2.5 minutes into this recording, and the people are like, just get to the episode.
Just tell me what's going on.
So we're talking about Born to the Purple. This is episode 3 of Babylon 5. Jeff and I were talking about, hey, you guys get all the flubs. Who knows what's going to happen today? You never know. This is behind the scenes. Like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. But, Jeff, if you're ready, I'm ready, man. Let's roll.
Do it. Welcome to Babylon 5 for the first time. This is not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I am watching Babylon 5 for the first time.
And I am Brent Allen, and I am also watching Babylon 5 for the first time.
Brent, are you okay? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. You're just so animated. I just wanted to, I wanted to give you the opposite side.
Well, let's just be real here. We're not watching Soul Hunter this week, so I am pretty excited to be here.
Hey, you know what? Spoiler alert, this episode was so much better.
So much better.
Hunter. It really was. But speaking of that, we are watching Born to the Purple. That is our episode this week. Jeff and I are two Star Trek podcasting veterans who are watching Babylon 5 for the very first time. Neither one of us, for some weird reason,
I don't know,
never watched Babylon 5. Don't even know what it's about. We are completely unspoiled to the whole thing, so please, nobody spoil it for us. But we are taking that lens, that message. Jeff, you're going to clean this up.
Right, so here you go. Already,
there you go,
YouTube. You got it. Yep. It's late. We're fine. It's fine. Right.
And what Jeff and I are doing is taking those skills and that lens that we have acquired as Star Trek podcasters, and we're going to apply it to Babylon 5 and decide if we really maybe should have watched Babylon 5 a lot sooner than now.
Absolutely. And again, this is not a Star Trek podcast, despite our massive pedigrees in that area. But we're gonna pull in those references. It's literally what we have trained ourselves to do. But to help us with that, we have a fun game that we like to play. We have the rule of 3. We each get 3 Star Trek references that we can make each episode. That's it. No mas. So Brent, you did a lot better last week than the week before, but still choose your spots carefully.
I think last week I only got 2.
I think so.
I think
Yeah.
we both only got to 2.
We did good.
Like the first week I had to borrow one from you.
You did.
So, yeah. No, it is fantastic. So like I said, today's episode we are discussing Born to the Purple, Babylon 5. Now, for those of you who haven't watched this episode in a long time, or maybe you're watching it first with us, or maybe you're not even watching Babylon 5 at all, you're just tuning in to see what the heck these guys are doing, talking about not Star Trek. So, Jeff, tell us what this episode was about.
Well, Sinclair you have to remember that Sinclair, in addition to being commander of the station and the Earth ambassador, is also the facilitator of so many negotiations and things that happen on Babylon 5.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Let's just go ahead and name it. He is also the flight pilot commander.
Yep.
He is the grappler. I heard he's the janitor, and he actually does a really good job keeping the station clean. He's also the cook around the station as
He works in the
well.
bar. Yeah.
He is the bartender. He's also the housekeeper. You know, he comes around and makes up everybody's bed.
Guy does it all.
He's also maintenance. He takes care of all the maintenance. He had to replace an outer hull piece the other day, which required a spacewalk on his part. Like, I mean, Sinclair just does it all.
Does everything. Because he's that good. He's that good.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in this case, he's taking on a big one. He's facilitating negotiations between the Centauri and the Narn over 12 planets in the Euphrates sector. Londo has been late. He's been absent, not very engaged, because Londo has fallen in love with a young female Centauri dancer named Adira. Adira is also pretty taken with Londo. Like, it seems pretty real, pretty legit, but we learn that she's also a slave. Her owner, Trackus, has ordered her to steal Londo's purple files. There we go, purple. Those files contain all the dirt he's collected on various Centauri over the years. It's really the foundation of his political power. So she uses a really fancy mind probe to steal his password. It's great. It's really great tool that she uses, and it's really strong encryption he has on his passwords there, but she gets to his files. She goes to deliver them to Trackus, but she has a change of heart, runs away, which leads Trackus to hiring thugs, and then they end up capturing. I'm going to read that part over again. So here we go, YouTube. This is all for you. So she uses a super cool, really fancy mind probe to steal his very, very strong password and is able to steal his files. Before delivering those files to Trackus, to her owner, she has a change of heart and she runs away. And that leads to Trackus hiring thugs from a really cool insectoid-looking guy to keep Londo away. And he finds her and he kidnaps her. In a masterful bit of political maneuvering, Sinclair is able to get the location of Adira by using Talia, remember the Psy-Core telepath that we met 2 episodes ago, using her telepathic abilities. They rescue her, convince Trackus to cancel his contract on her, and now she's a free Centauri. She heads home while Londo hopes that she returns to him one day. That is Born to the Purple. Brent, what did you think of this one?
Londo and Jakar are back.
Hooah! Yes!
I missed them. I didn't even miss the psycho lady from last episode. She wasn't in the last one either, I don't think.
At all. Nope.
But yeah, Londo and Jakar are back. Okay. Well, okay, I'll get to that in just a minute. This episode overall, this one felt every bit its age.
Okay.
To me. Like, this felt like 1994. Like, everything about it, I dare I say the hairstyles, because we'll talk about those.
We'll talk about
hairstyles,
point. Yeah.
But like it just felt that way. This was one of those episodes to me. It was a first season episode that really isn't bad. Like, it's kind of entertaining. It's pretty good, but it doesn't blow you away either. It's definitely not Soul Hunter though, and I feel like it might actually be way better because it's coming right after Soul Hunter.
Recency
it may feel
bias.
better to me. Yeah, exactly. But it is one of those episodes that's good enough to keep you interested in coming back. Like, as season 1 kind of dips in and out, it's like, okay, I hit this episode. This one will spur me on for a couple of more episodes. You know, like,
yeah.
Like it's that good. Personally, I felt like this one was the most Trek-like of the 3 episodes that we've seen so far. And That's both in substance and in message, and we'll talk about that when we get down towards the end of the show. And B plot. I just didn't care for this B plot at all.
What?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh.
Let's talk about B plot first. Let's go ahead and get that one out of the way. Let me explain why.
Okay. Well, first, why don't you explain the B plot first?
Oh,
so
sure.
People know what we're talking about.
So in the B plot, Garibaldi finds somebody's using the secret communication system that only Sinclair has access to, and they're not supposed to be doing that. And he goes to chase it down, and he takes it to Ivanova, and she's like, yeah, I don't really care, dude. Let it go. And turns out Ivanova is using the super secret secure channel to communicate with her dying father to give and grant forgiveness and be reconciled because they've apparently been and it's really heartbreaking and it's very touching, and there's all of that. And he eventually comes back, he's like, yeah, I figured out what the gremlin was, because oh, maybe it's just a gremlin. And he's like, don't worry, the gremlin's never going to happen. And Ivanova's like, okay, so but we're just not going to talk about it. And that's the whole B plot. Took about 10 minutes of the whole total screen time of the episode. Here's why I didn't care for it. B plots are supposed to juxtapose A plots. If an A plot is heavy and thick, a B plot's supposed to bring you lighthearted, kind of some chuckles. Maybe somehow it dovetails into the main plot. Maybe it doesn't. That doesn't really matter. But there's a juxtaposition.
Okay.
That was not what happened here.
It's true.
This was so heavy, and it was so it started like it could be kind of funny, and then it went not dark. It just went
deep. It went deep.
Yeah. I was like, okay. And I mean, listen, my heart went out to Ivanova, and Garibaldi was,
awesome.
He was
Yeah.
great, but it also could have been anyone else on the station doing it as well. Yeah, it just did. And it had nothing at all to do with the other side of the plot. It didn't give you another aspect of what's happening or anything like that. It's just, hey, we need 10 more minutes of screen time to fill out this episode, so let's throw this piece in. It's filler. And that's why while it was touching, I just didn't care for it.
Okay. I mean, I can see, and it's a B story you could literally lift and drop anywhere. They use one piece.
Yeah.
They use one piece of this to tie it to the A story at one point where Ivanova's like, "Hey, there's this little fight thing going on when Trackus's thugs are getting to Sinclair and Londo." Is like, "Oh, you need to go deal with that." And he's like, Garibaldi shows the most leadership we've seen out of anybody on this show so far, where he's like, "Yeah, my team's got it. I don't need to go do that. I'm going to catch this gremlin here." But yeah, that's the only thing that connects. It doesn't advance the story or anything. But I think this is the most personality we've seen out of Garibaldi, and not throughout everything. In the one moment, like the scene, like the blocking of the scene, the pacing of this, everything about this scene is amazing. When he basically calls Ivanova out, where he's kind of like standing behind and to the side of her, and he's like, "You're right. There's a gremlin. We're not going to hear from him again, right?" And she's like, "No, you won't." It's like, "Okay, we're good." And just everything about it was just this like, okay, so he's kind of like this macho guy, but also he's super cool, super compassionate, and understands this. And I thought this was a cool thing too. Like afterwards, he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm heading to the bar. Let me buy you a drink." And then she's like, No, I'm working." And then as he's running off, she's like, "Hold on, can I take a rain check? Can we do that?" And here's my hope in the whole thing is I hope that we just saw the beginning of like an amazing friendship between Garibaldi and Ivanova that's going to be formed on this moment of like extreme trust built between these two.
Friendship or relationship?
Friendship. I don't think it has to be a relationship. And frankly, after seeing what Garibaldi's second favorite thing in the universe is, I don't need to see him in a relationship.
If they did, that would turn into a whole Ron and Hermione thing.
Oh God.
To
yeah.
me, like, you guys don't really belong together,
No.
but
Well, you're both on the DVD cover, so I guess we got to do this thing.
Right.
No, I want to see them as professionals, because they have this really cool thing where he's trying to track down the gremlin, and she's like, "You're on my console again. Why? What's going on?" And it's just this cool back and forth.
Is this a running joke? Have they done this for
Yep.
a couple of episodes now?
Yep.
That Ivanova walks in and she goes, "Why are you on my console?" Like,
It's
it's
at least
not
the
just
second
this episode.
At least the second time.
I kind of hope this becomes like a running gag throughout the series, the course
Yeah.
of the show. Like every time she walks in, Garibaldi's on her console, and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing on my show?"
Yeah,
On
I have no
on my-
patience
on
for
my
this.
console."
Like,
Right,
knock
right.
it off.
Like I hope they ratchet it up in different ways and different things, because it's a fun way to do that.
Yeah.
All right, you got anything else about the B plot?
I loved it. I have more for it
Okay.
that I kind of said that I'll wrap in our closing pieces because to me here I think it's part of the Star Trek message in this. But yeah.
So let's rewind. Your overall thoughts on the episode as a whole, but I guess specifically the A plot.
So on the A plot, I thought this was a lot of fun. They did Londo's amazing, and when I see Londo, I see how the Centauri ruled the galaxy. Like it makes sense when Veer Kodo when his assistant comes in, then that all falls apart. But I think that the couple things that I had here was this was just a really cool way of, I guess, kind of playing that identity crisis that we've seen with Londo. We used to be so powerful. We used to be this. And then he kind of has that with Adira where he can't believe she's actually really into him in the whole thing. I thought it was really well. I thought it was really well done. The two kind of negative thoughts. I don't know if these are negative thoughts. I'll just say the two thoughts I have. One, here we are. This is like the 4th overall episode, counting The Gathering. Right? Or no, this is the 4th overall afterwards. Either way, between Soul Hunter and this, not even a mention of Kosh. Not even, don't see him.
True.
Not even mentioned. It's like,
Right.
So did the Vorlon mean anything in this whole thing? Was that just a cool outfit?
I mean, he's going to come back. And the only reason that I know he comes back is because when we were doing The Gathering, our pilot episode, which is very different than how we did this, one of the things that I noted in how they remember I said they updated the show for TNT. One of the things they changed was how Kosh looks at his hand. So they updated.
glow.
So he has to come back. He has to be a thing. But you're right. That's 2 episodes in a row where he's not really even a part of it.
And in this one, so last time we didn't get Londo or Jakar, and I think that's one of the main reasons it suffered. This time, we didn't get any Delenn, and I did not miss her at all.
You're right. We didn't. Apparently, I didn't miss her either, Jeff.
Right? Yeah. I think, and then 2 other things. I just said 2, and now here's 2 more. But I think 2 other things. We met a new character in here. Kodoth, is that how you say her name? Kodoth, Jakar's aide.
Is she going to be around?
I hope so.
Is she sticking around?
I sure hope so.
Really?
I mean,
You like her?
So what I think is you got Londo and Jakar who are just amazing, and they're the alphas, of what they are. So then you've got Kodo, and then you've got Kodoth, who are kind of like the shtick of the whole thing.
Okay.
I buy her shtick so much more than Veer Kodo's. Just the whole some guy's like, hey, let me buy a drink, and she's just straight up hisses at him. It was dumb, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Right. It's like the two almost really start representing their people group as a
Yeah.
whole, more so than the actual characters we get.
Exactly.
Well, Jeff, before we go too much further, then, I want to talk about our 2 guest actors real quick.
Okay.
And just kind of point them out because I went and looked them up. The first one that I want to talk about is Trackus. Now, Trackus is played by a guy named Clive Revel.
Oh, I thought it was Gene. I thought it was Gene Simmons this whole time. So nope, that was just me. Okay. Seriously, look at him. Tell me that doesn't look.
He does.
Yeah.
No, he definitely has a Gene Simmons thing.
Totally.
He absolutely does. He absolutely does. But Clive Revel was the original Emperor Palpatine in Empire Strikes Back.
What?
Before they went back and replaced him, was it Ian McDermott who
Yeah,
played him in the new ones? Before they went back and replaced him, this was the guy that played Emperor Palpatine
How cool
in The
is
Empire
that?
Strikes Back. He also, right in the same genre role as Emperor Palpatine, was the narrator for Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas.
How cool is that? Wow.
But here's this does not count as a Star Trek reference
Okay.
because He played Sir Guy of Gisborne, or Guy of Gisborne, however you want to say it, in the Robin Hood episode of Next Generation.
Oh,
Cupid.
okay.
Remember, I am not a merry man.
Yeah.
Like, he was the bad guy in that episode. So we do have a little Trek crossover. Adira Tyree, though, I want to talk about her. She's played by a lady named Fabiana Udenia. The only other place where anybody would ever know, and I'm just going to sneak this in because I can now, she was in the Austin Powers movie, and she played the character A Lot of Vagina.
That she did.
Thank you very much.
There it is.
I'm done.
The second she came up on stage, right? So there's this burlesque, kind of club that she's in with awesome music. That, to your point of being of its time, that was
right.
But she came out and immediately I'm like, where do I know her from? But there's so much with her and Londo eventually. I was, is that oh my god, it's A Lot of Vagina. That's so cool.
All right. Can I say this straight off the bat?
Oh yeah.
Because this stopped me cold in my tracks the first half of this episode. Who the heck is Ambassador Malari? It took me forever to figure out that they were talking about Londo.
Yeah. Really?
I'm like, where did this name come from? Is this his last name?
I
guess this is his last name.
Yeah.
Did we know that before now?
I think so.
Did we?
Yeah. I never the whole time. Maybe it was just the stank that Jakar had. Ambassador Malari. Maybe that gave it away for me. But I'm like, I never questioned that.
I was like, who is Malari? Why are they calling him Malari? His name's Londo. What are you doing? It took me forever to figure it out. So I don't know. Maybe if I go back and watch the first couple episodes, it'll key in and I just missed it the first couple of times. But yeah, Ambassador Malari. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I'm going to call this out for what it is. That opening scene that you're talking about when Jakar is in there and Londo's like, sit, have a drink, have a drink, which, okay, first of all, Jakar and Londo sitting and having a drink at the same table, given their animosity towards each other, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But whatever. What's the girl's name? The female Narn?
Adira. Oh, the Narn. No, Kodoth.
Yeah.
Kodoth.
When she pops up and Jakar goes through that whole and he spits out his drink. He's like, oh, I thought you wouldn't be here for a few days. Okay, that is next level bad acting. It was not it was so no.
Well,
no. Retake that, director.
I was going to say,
let them do that.
Here's me given the same benefit of the doubt I gave to Garibaldi was I got to believe that there's no way. They had to have had 18 takes of that. And they're just like, well, because here, could you imagine having that makeup on and doing a spit take? I don't know. You're right, though. It was so bad it was hilarious. But it was hilarious in a way I was embarrassed. In fact, I was telling you this before we turned on the recorder. My daughter, my 6-year-old, she's watching with me and she's like, what is this? Lamelon 5? Right at that moment, and I'm just like, wow, I'm getting straight judged by a 6-year-old right now. That's
right.
But yeah, that was a rough moment.
Yes, because your 6-year-old watching you watch 1994 Babylon 5 is like any of us watching our parents watch 1968 TOS.
Yeah, it's true.
It is.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, here's the other thing. I have a question.
Okay.
And I feel like I've seen this in a couple episodes, but now I just have to ask. Is it just straight up okay to beat up other people in public on the station with zero fear of consequences, even when it's right in front of the station commander?
Yeah.
And nothing happens to you?
Nothing. Dude has shocker gloves on thing, and he's just like, I'm going to do this. What do you got? You got nothing. Yeah. Station security is kind of a joke. It's not even a joke.
Is it even a thing?
Yeah, it doesn't even
Are we
exist.
in the Wild West out here where hey, we're just going to have saloon fights and nobody's going to think a thing about it?
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. I mean, and it was that first moment when Adair is trying to run away and 80s Gene Simmons just literally walks up to a guy and he's like, I'm going to shock and kill you. You're in the middle of a store. There are people here.
Well, but there was that the Kodoth girl. Like somebody came up and said something, and like she takes the guy and like throws him backwards into stuff too. And I'm like, she doesn't just growl at him. Like she pushed him back, and like, dude, Sinclair's right there.
And he's like, yeah, it's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's what you do.
Okay.
So here's a question I had for you. So
yeah.
In the gathering, we had Lita Alexander as the telepath, right, from Psychor, and she agreed. Like we I don't want to say we've been made to believe, but it's been hinted that Psychor does a lot of conditioning on telepaths.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of rules. She agreed to break that rule to do an unauthorized scan on Kosh. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of an extreme thing, saving a life, whatever. Well, again, here we are with Talia. And they kind of dance around a way and get her to pretty much violate her training again to read the mind of Trackus so that they can find out where Adira is. My question is, like, is this Psychor training, like, how legit is this Psychor training? We're just a handful of episodes in. We've already seen it get broken twice.
Well, and it kind of got broken in the exact same way. Like, it's almost like they lifted a plot point from the pilot and used it over here, which... I mean, on one level, like you're saying, like, look, it's been a year. People really haven't watched the pilot. So it feels like it's kind of for the first time we're doing it. But for us, it seems so recent because we're watching these like bang, bang, bang. So I wonder if that's it. And I hope we don't see them go to this well too many times. We can't do that because that's against Psychor regulation. Well, here's how we get around it.
Yeah, I got this loophole I can figure out.
Like I don't need them. I don't need to see them go to that. To go down that path too many more times.
Yeah.
I will forgive them now, understanding the time difference between the pilot and this one. But with that, I mean, I do like the way she got around this one much better than the other one. Because, like, I remember with the gathering, we talked about, like, okay, so she goes and does that. Maybe that's why she's not here anymore. She got fired for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it made everything work out okay, but you still shouldn't have done it, and you need to have those consequences. Versus here, she kept everything on the surface, and she just tricked him, and she outsmarted him, and I like that. I really, really like that you can actually hold both. You can hold both up.
Well, I think having really talked trash about Sinclair to kick this off, all deserved by him. This was great on his part. He got Talia to do that. He got Jakar to believe that he was about to like get some stuff from Londo, and apparently in this negotiation on the 12 planets, he or Earth had like this compromise proposal, and so he talked to both Londo and Jakar separately. He's like, if I can get this to happen, will you agree to my if I can get this to happen, will you agree? They both said they'd agree. Brings in Talia, boom, done. He takes care of it.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's super slick.
It was very Cisco-esque mixed with a little bit of Nog.
That's worth it. That's good. It really is. It really was. Yep.
Like think of all those episodes with Nog where we saw him going out and trading and being like not sneaky, not underhanded, but utilizing his. I think they had 3 episodes where Nog, like, he did the trade thing.
Yep. Incentive.
Where he kept going back and forth.
Incentive-based economics is what he called it. Yeah.
Right. But then you mix that with Cisco and the just, you know, those times when Cisco just dropped it on the table and was like, this is how it is.
Yep.
Like it was that kind of a thing. Yeah. It was good. This was a good Sinclair episode. Sinclair did what Sinclair ought to do. Last week we talked about how he goes off and does a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
We referenced that earlier at the beginning of this show. He didn't do that here.
Well, you know, I could make the argument where he and Londo kind of get up in their get-ups and they go to the burlesque club. And I'm being kind, calling it a burlesque club. But also, that's like what I referenced last time. That's the Captain Kirk approach to it, where it's like, hey, no, this isn't just a me thing. If I was going to say Sinclair shouldn't be there, I'd also have to say that Londo shouldn't, and he needed to be there. Right. Yeah,
it made sense that both of those people would go there. The thing that didn't make sense to me though is the guy running that store didn't really seem to recognize Sinclair or
Exactly.
Londo. These are two major people on this station, and I know the station is huge, but in any town, you know who the mayor is.
Yeah. Well, and they were in the club.
If you're a shop owner.
They were
right.
they were in the club as Londo and Sinclair. Londo looked super comfortable, like he's there all the he knew some of the dancers, right? Like, and for this guy to just be like that, and on that overacting tip, right? Like Sinclair, oh my God, that whole scene with the bartender, bar owner guy is just like, I get what you're going for here. Mission fail.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. I think 2 weeks ago we talked about Centauri, like their hair.
Yeah, here we go.
Like, is this a part of their skull, or is this like a fashion choice that all the dudes make? So here's my question for you this week. Is there a thing in Centauri culture where the dudes get all the hair and all the girls get is the little Egyptian prince thing?
Yeah, I didn't get what was going on there. I didn't. If they hadn't explicitly said she was Centauri, I would have had no clue. Right. They've got the kind of bushier eyebrows. They've got fangs. Their incisors are a little pointier. They've got the peacock hair and everything. She had a top knot sticking out of a bald head.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
Like, I literally thought it was like, hey, I'm human girl looking exotic in this burlesque club. Like, that's what I thought it was until, apparently that's Centauri.
Apparently you're Centauri. Now, all of that being said, no, one more thing. We got our first drink. We got our first space drink.
Okay.
In Babylon 5. Hot Jala. Yeah, he called have some hot, and it's apparently some sort of blue liquid that you drink out of a martini glass.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if it has an olive in it.
If it doesn't, when I try it, it will.
Is it shaken or stirred?
No, these are the questions, people. These are the questions that people come back to.
Hey, those of you guys out there that know, don't spoil it for Jeff and I. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure this drink thing out on our own. We do
Right.
not need your help.
Right. You mentioned Londo having fangs. Since when has he had fangs?
They've got like little incisor pointy things. Yeah.
No, I noticed that, and I made a note. Since when? Like, I've just never noticed that Londo had fangs. I'm sure he's probably had it since episode 1.
Yeah, I feel like you've been pretty.
You've
been pretty Londo blind, Londo Malari blind this whole time.
Dude, I'm just trying to figure out what the heck's going on these first couple of episodes. Who's who and where's what and whatever. All right, let's talk about this, because I think we can actually dive into this one. All right, we learned a lot about Centauri culture in this episode. We learned that Centauri have slave contracts, but that the slave quote unquote owner is responsible for the actions of their slave, which is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But we also learned that they're very concerned in Centauri culture about titles and power and appearances, and that power is achieved through blackmail. And we also learned that it's really, really easy to mind read, go in and fake somebody out and steal all their super sensitive information. And that's the Centauris, and probably why they lost power in the universe.
Well, their encryption is literally wine, women, and song. Like that was his password. That's but no, I think we knew before a little bit, at least, about just kind of the political intrigue and having dirt on each other. Londo talked about that before, and Jakar used that against him with kind of releasing some information about his family on some stuff to leverage. So okay, that's a thing, and so of course he's got files on people or whatever, but I don't know, and maybe this is just of the time. It just really feels weird to me that there was literally 3 words on a computer between him and the entire base of all of his family's political power. That's pretty weak.
I honestly just had more of a problem with how easy it was for her to do the mind tap.
So I think let's talk about that, right? So
yeah,
it looked like, at first I thought it was like Louboutin fingernail polish container. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just a big thing. She hangs over his ear. And it's just,
for the record, I have no idea what you're talking about, but go ahead.
They're pretty fancy fingernail polish bottles, really spiky and big.
Okay.
But when I first saw, it, I'm like, oh my god, look at that! They really splurged on a prop here, which is a good move after Soul Hunter. But I think this might be a thing for us, this Soul Hunter thing, at least for me. But yeah, literally just hung this thing on his ear after, basically giving him a roofie and asked him a question. He just gave it up. Does this only work on Centauri? Did it only work on him for some thing? Because you're right, it took nothing to get that out of him. And then he woke up, just thought he was a little hungover. Oh, look at that. Hey, Veer, you handle this thing for me because I was not feeling great. Yeah, you just literally gave away the house, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he got Veer to go do his thing because he was freaking out about Chick, about Adira. Yeah, I don't know. For a guy who is an ambassador, okay, first of all, do these ambassadors who represent entire people groups not have security?
Yeah, right?
Personal security, like, at all? Like, how easy? I don't know. It's just so weird to me. And I know we're probably picking about our stuff that the people out there who know Babylon 5 are like, dude, you're way off base with what's actually important happening here. But still, it's what I noticed watching for the first time was like, this is what I'm getting caught up on. What did you make of the slave contract? Like, it's like she willingly entered into a slave contract or something of that nature. And how does this whole thing work? What'd you make of all that?
My first thought was like, okay, so apparently slavery's cool. Like, at no point was anybody like, you should not have a slave. It was just, oh, well, I guess she's a slave. That's the thing. Talked her out of the contract. I thought the contract itself was hilarious. Like, he literally produced a piece of paper. It was like, here's this thing. But I think about it, maybe it's more of, in a society like the Centauri that are all those things you just talked about, if you don't have a name or a title or a family or stuff, what other choice do you have? And so they're calling it slavery, but maybe it's more of an indentured servitude kind of a thing, like with a period, you do a thing. All in all, though, it's one of my big beefs I have with Star Wars. Like in Star Wars, there's just slaves and there's a slave trade and it's active and nobody's doing anything about it. It's just, oh yeah, this is how we get stuff done. I hope there's more to this slave thing in Babylon 5 than just, oh yeah, there's slaves and there's happens to be a contract, a bill of sale, or whatever.
And that's how it works in the Centauri world.
Right. Yeah. That's
in Alpha Centauri.
That's not going to taste good.
That's just how. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, space flowers. We got space flowers in a space face.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
That was fun.
I think they did a really good job with that and the heirloom that Londo had. Just kind of some emotional touchstones on there, and it really, to me, what it showed is there's the relationship with Londo and Adira that's just old dude with a young chick, right? Like there's that, and okay, fine. But this showed that for him, it was so much more than that, and that she reciprocated just with that heirloom. The fact that, like, when she betrayed him, she left it, and she's like, I'm sorry, I left it. But then when she left and they were cool, she took it. And I thought that was pretty powerful.
I loved how they resolved, and by they, I mean Adira and Londo, how they resolved their relationship or whatever it is at the end. Like, I loved hearing Londo just kind of look at her, and she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, look, I'm an old man. I have been in love before, and I have been hurt before. Like, he took that like a champ, because he clearly had real feelings for Adira. Clearly. And she did what he did. He understood. He didn't like it. He actually wanted her to stay. She chose to go, and he understood why. And he's like, look, I'll be fine. It's okay. Like, yes, I loved you, but also I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like I loved that.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do this like, I'm going to love you forever, and you're going to tear my heart out and take it with you, and all that stuff we usually get on TV, that's just a little I remember this. I'll share this story here. I remember back before I met my wife, I was dating a girl, and we wound up breaking up. And I remember there came this point, and I wanted to do the kind of sappy thing, and this was probably back in the 90s. And I wanted to do the sappy thing of like, there'll always be a piece of me that loves you.
Right.
Like I wanted to say that like as we were breaking up, but I stopped myself before I did that because I sat back and I went, well, hold on a minute. I don't, because when I do find that one that I love and who loves me and that I'm going to be married to, I don't want a piece of my heart belonging to somebody else. I want my whole heart given to the one who actually loves me enough back to stay with me.
Right.
You know? And it was, I think it was one of those, like, that was a moment of maturity for me that I crossed a threshold with that. It was a watershed moment. And I see that same thing in Londo here. Like, yes, he has feelings for her. Yes, all of this happened, but he can handle that like a man, like a champ.
Yeah.
And I loved that for him. And she didn't bend to it. She still went away and did what she needed to do for herself, which was absolutely the right thing for her to do, which is what Ezri Dax should have done after episode 3 of season 7.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Go listen to Beam Me Up, a Star Trek podcast, when that episode airs. Oh, it's out already. Yeah, go listen to that episode, and you'll hear my thoughts on that. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Is that 2 for me?
that's 2. Yeah,
That's
but
2?
they're 2.
You only have 1?
They're 2 really good ones.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
Yeah,
Just got to keep track.
yeah, exactly. It's good. You're spending them well, and I think that's what really matters. You know, it's like you don't want to have throwaways.
Just for the Star Trek listeners out there, what I've said, and I truly believe this. I love Ezri Dax as a character. I love that they introduced Ezri Dax in the season 7 deal of Deep Space Nine. But I also don't think Ezri should have stayed on the station. I think she should have gone away, and that would have been a more fitting into the Dax character. And she could maybe have like a guest spot in a couple episodes, but she didn't need to be a main cast member. Anyway, that's my own thoughts. Go ahead.
Again,
that's what I meant when I said that for people out there listening.
Beam Me Up pod to to get that one. And yeah, it is. We could do a whole talk on Ezri because there's a lot.
But
there.
This, Jeff, is not a Star Trek podcast.
It is not. But I do think. I mean, do you have anything else really on Born to the Purple?
No, the only things that I have left are the messagey part.
Yep.
Like because there's some stuff that I want to dive into there. So if you're ready, let's go.
Let's do it. Absolutely. So in this section and this week, why don't you go first on this one because you're there? But this is where we really kind of take everything that we've talked about and see if there's a deep moral message, a Star Trek-like theme to this episode. We're going to give our final thoughts. We're going to talk about whether we would watch this episode again. And then we're going to rate it between 0 and 5 deltas as to just how quote unquote Star Trek this episode was. Brent, go ahead.
Jeff, I'm going to actually ask for your forgiveness ahead of time. You're going to want to mark this in because you're going to want to cut this. But I need to run just not even 2 minutes. But entertain the folks at YouTube because they're still watching.
Sounds good. Hi, YouTube. Hey, now that Brent's not here, let's take a quick second and talk so much trash about the Buccaneers, right? Because seriously, I'm just kidding. Brent used to have a really big podcast on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and so it's a big deal to him. Hey, listen, you're on YouTube, you're watching stuff. In the comments, just for fun, this is a thing. I know you can see I'm a musician. I want to know who your favorite bands are. And I don't want us to tell Brent that we're asking this question. I just want him to see random comments down below that are listing bands and be like, what in the heck is this whole thing about? Let's put it in there. Tell me who you like. I'll tell you my favorite band. It's Rush. They're right up there. I got a poster. I think you can see them there. The Justin Bieber here. That's my wife. She took care of that one. Or put it there. But it's a fun one either way. So there's that. But I think it'll be fun just to give it some, or put something else. I don't know if there's maybe some other kind of joke we could play on him and just put a bunch of comments in there. Yeah, I don't know. Fun either way. You can see on his thing, the Beam Me Up podcast. My other podcast is called the Starfleet Leadership Academy. You can check that out. It's super nerdy. It's 2 great tastes that taste great together, where I talk about leadership and I talk about Star Trek, and they come together. Do a little bit about that on this Babylon 5 thing as well. So this 2 minutes is taking some time. So we don't edit this YouTube stuff at all. I do cut the audio up to make it kind of clean, but you get all this stuff, which is pretty cool. And that's exactly why Tom Brady is the best thing that ever happened to the Buccaneers, because without him... Oh, hey, Brent, you're back. Look at that.
Did I miss anything
Oh,
good?
no.
I heard something about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
No, we weren't talking football. It's fine.
Tom Brady is the best thing that's ever happened to the Buccaneers.
It really
I ain't
is.
gonna lie.
Well, him and the stadium. That thing's gorgeous.
The stadium's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. Although it was very dated. They finally have updated it quite a bit, but it was fairly dated, and it's due. It's like, I feel like the updates they put into it are like, okay, this is going to get us through the next 5 to 10 years, and then we're going to get a new stadium. I hesitate to say need, because does anybody really need a new stadium?
Right. Well,
anyway.
Yeah. All right. We're going to pick back up where we were.
Yes, you had just asked me about what messages I had found,
Yep.
and I am prepared to discuss.
Excellent.
That. So, Jeff, to me, this really comes down to the question, to the thing that Londo had said when he was in bed with Adira. And he says this idea of, I'm just a washed up old Republican, right? And, she talks about, it's your title and your power. Oh, it's my title and my power you're after. She's like, I want nothing more than what I have, and all this kind of stuff. And here's what I find in this episode is we watch Londo, who has come to a spot in his life where he has realized that if you live for the title and for the power, that you will ultimately be left unfulfilled, and that is an empty and fleeting mistress to pursue. Love is what is worth living for. Yeah. And this actually sounds more Harry Potter than Star Trek to me, frankly, but love is what is worth living for. I hear Captain Picard saying at the end of season 1, we have gotten past material needs and wants, and these things don't drive us anymore. What drives us is the betterment of humanity and seeking out our own truth and living our best lives. And here's Londo, I feel like, kind of in that same way. He's just saying, to hell with appearances. I want something that is real. Unfortunately, this thing that he has with this girl is not real. She is doing this at the blunt end of a slave knife, I guess. I don't know how you say that, but at the same time, she really seems to have had feelings back for Londo, which kind of made this real. She just had to get away because bad stuff happened. But, he refers to at some point the mask that he wears, and Adira has been able to see underneath the mask. And we've got to be able to take that mask off. And so I love that as a message, which I felt wasn't just a single line, but really was replete throughout the entire episode of love is what's worth living for. Title and power and those kinds of things, while fun and good on some levels, I like the phrase, it's an empty and fleeting mistress to pursue. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
How about you?
I love that. That's great. Well, before you get to me, how many deltas you want to give this?
Oh, my deltas.
You got to rate it.
Okay.
It's hard,
We're
man.
doing 1 to 5?
You're going to do 0 to 5.
0 to 5. That's right. I'm going to give this one a. It's how Star Trek is this episode. I'm giving this one a 5. I think this is so down the line as a Star Trek episode, Star Trek type episode. Okay. I'm giving it a 5. I don't know that I have my rating system out right.
I know.
Like I almost don't want to give it a 5. Like I'm gonna give it a 4 just because. But I think this is a Star Trek episode, which kind of makes it binary to me, I guess, a little bit.
Right? Yeah. Like, well, if it is, then it's a 5.
Yeah, it's about as Star Trek as you're gonna get. I'm gonna pull it back to a 4 because in Star Trek they really don't talk about love at all. They really don't. In Star Trek they talk about society and where we are as a people and what drives us and why, the betterment of everybody. They're really, very rarely are they talking about love
or a person or individual.
Yeah. And being this, I'm doing this for love. Like very rarely do we really ever see that. So, I'll give it a 4.
Okay.
Just because of that.
It's interesting. I don't disagree at all. And in fact, a big part of what I had here was that exactly, just that whole piece of, and I didn't point it at love. I pointed it at fulfillment, right? Like how do I as a person fulfill kind of my place, in society or whatever, or how do I provide the most value and things like that. But kind of talking through that, it makes me question some of my thoughts. So I'll go through this and rate it, but then I'm going to say my rating is a little open based on what we just talked about. So what I'll add to what you had said about the titles piece is in the Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribulations, which I swear if you have not watched, you need to pause this podcast right now. Everything in your life you need to put on pause. Go watch Trials and Tribulations. I mean, seriously.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's like the perfect episode.
It really is.
But
it's so funny.
So it's funny.
It's so funny. My wife and I watched that episode and we cackled all the way through it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's perfect. It just hit every note.
Yeah.
But in it, they go back to the original series times, Deep Space Nine crew, and they're back on the Enterprise with Kirk and Spock and everybody. And Sisko dresses up as a lieutenant in there. And it really hit me watching that episode how Bashir got hung up on that. He's like, but you're a captain. Like, and he's like, it doesn't matter what my title is. What matters is what I can do to get done what I have to get done. And I feel like that's kind of where Londo came, where it's exactly what you said. It's not my title. It's what I can do and how I feel about myself. And it's that feeling thing that got me to my big message in this. We had Garibaldi and Ivanova, and then we had Londo and Adira, that at the end kind of had the same place they landed, which was, I'm going to take care of me, right? So Ivanova violated everything. And I think like there's a whole conversation we could have about why she chose to. I'm sure Sinclair would have been supportive of her taking time to talk to her dad. But I think that she's a woman in an executive level of power who didn't want to show weakness. And as we talked about before, a Russian woman didn't want to show weakness in wanting to talk to her family or something. So she felt that she had to hide it. But so she's going to take care of herself. Garibaldi, though, sees that, and he's not going to hold it against her. He's going to help take care of her in a non-judgmental way. So then we look at Londo and Adira, where Adira is going to take care of herself, doing what Trackus, her slave owner, wants her to do. And then she's going to make that decision to run and put her whole life, really, at risk to get away from Trackus and not throw Londo under the bus. And then Londo comes around, and just like you said, he's like, look, you do what you got to do. I want you here with me, but you do you, because I'm going to help take care of you. And I think that's part of what Star Trek teaches us, is that we have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And I think we had two incredible examples of that in this episode. So my thought was to give this 4 deltas. 4. I agree, this is very much a Star Trek episode in a lot of ways. But we just talked about how Star Trek tends to focus on the society, on the whole, and you and I both really drove this down to the individual. Right. I want to stand by 4 deltas, but I'm going to just hold it up and say, like, does that hold water? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think, because I gave it 4 deltas ultimately, and I think you should too. No, I think that's good, because Star Trek does also deal with the individual piece. Like the whole idea of Star Trek being individually we seek for these things for the betterment of society. And here it's individually we're seeking these things so that I can actually do my job. Yeah. As well, and we could just be people, like, because within, like, that's the whole thing. Society is made up of people. Mm-hmm. Society isn't a thing in and of itself. Like, it is made up of individuals. So, yeah, I don't have any problems. I wouldn't knock it down just because of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, for me, the reason of knocking it back, like I said, is more just because Star Trek doesn't tend to go with the feely emotional thing. Mm-hmm. Like we do see Worf. We see, what we see in Star Trek a lot is passion.
Yeah. Okay.
I think of like a Worf and Jadzia. Like, I don't know that I would say there was a lot of love, but there was definitely a lot of passion there. Atom and B'Elanna, a lot of passion there. Riker and Troy, even. I don't think anybody would say that there's not love there, but I think passion probably describes that relationship, especially through the TNG years, the on again, off again. Way better than love, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So it does deal with it, but on the whole, I think Star Trek is definitely more about passion. And here I think they were talking about love.
Yeah.
It's similar. Yeah. It's similar enough. So.
Well, we did it. We got through Born to the Purple. Great episode. Right. And I think one piece we didn't hit. I
Yeah.
I would watch this episode again. What about you?
I would
Yeah?
too. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is the kind. This is what I'm here
Yep.
for. This is the kind of TV.
This is my favorite episode so far of everything we've watched.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I still go back to my opening statement. This is a first season type of episode. You hit an episode like this and like it's really good. It's good enough that even if the next like 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes are kind of like I'll watch through them going, but there's going to be a good one here soon.
Yeah.
And I need a good one to come in to keep me moving. This one will propel me for a few episodes. But I hope that if you take this episode and compare it to like say a season 4 or season 5, maybe even a season 3 episode, this one's not going to compare.
Yeah.
Like those are just going to be so much better. That's my hope. But for season 1 and where we are, this one's going to propel me forward. And I absolutely would watch this one again.
Well, our next one, so hoping that we don't have to get pulled through, right? Hopefully we get another one. But our next one is called Infection. And as
Is
it
it?
is.
Is
It
it?
is.
Oh.
And let's talk about what we do here, right? So for everybody, so Brent, you know this, I know this. We look at the next title. That's all we look at. If you out there want to hit us up on Twitter at Babylon First, laugh at us, call us morons, tell us how far we are off, or tell us we're dead on things. Don't tell us what those things are. Don't spoil anything for us. We don't want to know what's coming. So we like to guess. Play a little game and guess what the next one's going to be about. So Brent, it's called Infection. I think this one's kind of sci-fi 101, but what do you think this one's going to be about?
For those people not watching the YouTube channel, I'm rolling my eyes so hard right now at hearing the name of this episode. I have often said, I say it on my own show, Beam Me Up, quite a bit. There are episodes, there are stories that every single sci-fi show out there does a take on. Like one of them that everybody does is so-and-so gets knocked out of phase and nobody else can see them, but they're still there, but everybody else thinks they're dead. Every show has done that one. The other one is, oh, so-and-so committed a murder, but our guy committed a murder. They're charged for it, but he doesn't remember it or he didn't do it or whatever. And so now we got to go to trial or they all do. Every single one. Here's one of those. That's what I think this one is. This is somebody gets a disease. They bring it in. Maybe it helps them. Maybe they start de-evolving like they did in Stargate SG-1 and like they did in Next Generation and like they did in Voyager and like they did, I'm sure, on some episode of
any other
Battlestar Galactica.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be one of those. And Infection's going to get brought in. It's going to take over the whole thing. And they're going to have to find a way to eradicate it because it's going to knock people. Strange New Worlds.
Yep.
Brand, as we're watching this, the 3rd episode of Strange New Worlds premiered last week as we're recording this, and that was that episode.
Yep.
Lower Decks did this episode as their pilot episode, I believe it was.
Yep.
Like everybody does this episode.
Yep. Here we are.
That's what I think it is. You said Star Sci-Fi 101. So
That's
yeah,
what it
I think
is.
that's what it is.
My hope, right? This is, I guess, like wishful thinking. There's going to be, because we've got the different sectors, like the alien sector and the whatever. Maybe that's going to play a role, and we learn a little more about the atmospheres or something. I don't know, but we're going to find out next time right here on Babylon 5 for the first time. Not a Star Trek podcast. Oh, you got something more, Brent?
No, I was going to just do the outro.
Do it. Okay.
Because you've done it for the
I
last
have.
2.
You
so
knock
you
it
might want
out.
to cut that.
Yeah, I'm going to cut the whole
out,
thing out. Yeah. Thanks, you. That's
All right,
for
well,
you,
guys,
YouTube. It's getting so much value out of this.
This is Jeff and I communicating.
Like,
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, listen, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And wherever you are listening, perhaps you're listening on Podbean or Podchaser or Podcast Addict or Overcast or Simulcast or any of those other casts. You're listening to us on some other platform other than Apple. We'd ask you to do us a little favor. Stay right where you are listening to us. That's awesome. But run over to Apple for us real quick because almost everybody has an Apple ID. Find our podcast over there. Leave us a quick rating and review. And if you're on Apple, leave us a rating and review because we would love to hear that and we would love to see that from you guys. And, obligatory. It helps the show, although people say it doesn't. But yeah, it actually does because it's called social proofing. You say you like the show, other people will see it too and say they do. So please go do that. And find us on Twitter at Babylon First. That's how you can contact us there. The only thing we ask you not to do is spoil anything for future episodes that are coming up. Please don't do that. We don't want to know about new characters that come and go or old characters that leave the show. We don't want to know about, just wait until something happens. We don't want to know any of that. We're going to go through this completely unspoiled. So, guys, I guess that's going to do it for us. And until next time.
Live long. I think I got it. I think I got it this time.
Jeff.
Until next time, be well. And we'll see. We'll come up with a better way to end this thing. Can I just say it? Can I just say live long? No.
Only if you have one more you can use. You got to.
Well, here we go.
But you can do it.
We'll come up with something next time. Everybody, live long and prosper.
It's not a Star Trek podcast.
Well, there you go. You guys got a treat this week.
We do need to come up with another ending because we've now used that 3 weeks in a row, and that one's run its course.
Agreed.
We need a new ending, and that's fine. We'll figure that. We don't need to do that with YouTube here. Hey, if you guys YouTube have ideas for how we can close it out, because having a little fun thing is great. Comment down below. Let us know what you liked about this episode. Did you enjoy Jeff's little monologue when I ran away for 45 seconds or however long that was? I don't know. But hey, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Subscribe, all that sort of stuff, because it's good. And we love you guys. We'll see you next week for Infection.
Infection.
All right.